Welcome, Internet, to a very sexy episode of the PixelPlay Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kaylan, aka Catastrophe, joined by always by my co-hosts Adam at CS Radical and Chris at Gin and Chris. This week, we're talking about romances in video games and sex scenes in games, how we feel about it, and all that fun stuff. If you like that, you want to get more, you can find us wherever you get your podcast by searching for PixelPlay Podcast on YouTube, on the internets, wherever you get your podcast. We're there. You'll find us, and we're happy you did. If you want to be part of the show, you can always find us at linktr.ee/PixelPlay Podcast in order to join our Discord, be part of the group, be part of the gang. We have a good time down there. We'd love it if you joined. If you haven't done yet so and you're watching us on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment. It all tells the AI systems that we are the best gaming podcast out there, and we greatly appreciate it. With that being said, gentlemen, how are you guys doing? It's been a while. What have you guys been up to?
Nothing? No, I'm kidding. Not nothing. I mean, me personally, I've been I've been getting out of my gaming lull. I think last time we were talking, I was mentioning that, I was in a slump. And I think I'm coming out of it, but I was like, okay, you know what I need? I need some like AAA games. I've been playing a lot of like indie games, a lot of stuff on the Steam Deck where like it's not like AAA. I've been doing a lot of like puzzle games and that kind of stuff. And I've got Final Fantasy VII, but for some reason, every time I go on the PlayStation, I know what it is. It's because if I'm going to go on there, I see Helldivers and I'm like, I just want to do that. And then I don't play Final Fantasy VII and then I regret it. So I realized, okay, you know what? My Xbox needs some love. I barely touched it last month. I didn't even really get a game. Yeah, and it's like I have all this Game Pass and I'm not using it. So I ended up starting 2 games on there just because one just came out and I've always wanted to play it. That was Diablo 4. I actually started playing that because it was added to Game Pass. I'd never played Diablo with a controller before. And I was very excited because I was like, oh, it's okay. You know what? This is a PC game. I can install Diablo in the Xbox app on the PC. That's where Game Pass games are. It's so weird because you go there, and this is the first time I've ever seen Xbox do this. You go to install it, and it's like all you do is now connect your battle.net launcher to Xbox, and you're going to get Diablo 4 in there. So it's not even in the Xbox app. You actually get it in the Blizzard app. And the reason that's good is because then once it's activated, it's just there. So I installed Battle.net on my Steam Deck, and normally you can't install Xbox games or, Game Pass games on there because the weird Windows file. They're not even like an exe file. But this is a normal file. So I installed Diablo 4 on my Steam Deck locally, and it runs beautifully on there. Like, holy crap. And I installed it on the Xbox, and I was like, I'm going to give these both a go. It has cross save. So like you can play for a bit on, I got to level 5 on the Steam Deck yesterday and then saved it and then loaded up the Xbox today after work. And I was in the exact same spot I was. Like it just moved. It's seamless. And I thought like, wow, I love this, being able to switch so easily. I'm not very far in that game. I don't have much to say about it, but I mean, it is Diablo. It feels like Diablo. A lot of microtransactions and stuff everywhere. Like even the menu to exit, it puts you very specifically in one spot. You either have to go 2 to the left to get to the menu to exit, which crosses over the Battle Pass menu, or you got to go to the right to get there, and then you cross the like microtransactions purchasing menu. So it's like, I see what people were upset about. Now I'm kind of seeing that microtransaction, but the campaign and gameplay itself, like ignoring that stuff, seems to be actually pretty good so far. Like I love Diablo games. I'm already liking it more than I like Diablo 3. It feels definitely more like a Diablo 1 or a Diablo 2. But again, I'm like still in the prologue. I'm not far. I'm like level 6 because I like to just kill everything I see. So I'll probably have more on that later. The other game I started playing is probably the one I want to talk about more because it's one that I didn't think I would play. And it's one that we were talking about before, Atomic Heart. I actually started that and decided I'm going to give this a go. Did you ever play that, Kaylan? I don't think you did, Adam.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just gave it high praises.
Yes, you did. It is definitely not Game of the Year. I will say that. But it's interesting because the opening of it is beautiful. Honestly, it felt like BioShock Infinite, like that crazy, just big spectacle of an intro. And I was loving it. And then it got into the main, like, okay, now you're in this like facility and you've got to do the objectives and get out of here kind of situation. And this is when the game got kind of boring. And also, I don't know what it is about the writing, but everything, even since the beginning, has been cringy as hell.
It's bad.
The writing is bad. But if you're okay, just like cringy writing, but like still fun gameplay and stuff, it'll be fine. Like it is a good game. I would say it's a good game. I'm gonna finish it. At least for now, I still plan on finishing it. The graphics spectacle ended as soon as you're in the facility. They definitely put all their budget into the opening world. And then, yeah, you're just underground and it's like, there's evil robots. Uh-oh, shoot them. And then you do. And it's like, okay, this is like very repetitive and kind of boring sometimes. But I mean, it's still fun enough that I'll want to finish it and continue. But yeah, you have to, if anybody plans on going into this, just please, like, it's going to be so cringy and just the things the characters say for no fucking reason. I have no idea why. It's so bad. It's like B movie on purpose, but I think they weren't going for on purpose, and I think that's why it feels a little cringy. But actual like gameplay wise, it's fun. I mean, it's a shooter. It's a basic shooter. I wouldn't say it's doing anything incredible. It's not doing anything horrible. It's just kind of there. I think the actual bad part, because I don't mind the cringy writing. I've accepted it's cringy, so I more laugh at the dialogue compared to like try and take it seriously. It's just I find the atmosphere right now boring. Because
there's nothing interesting about it. At least with BioShock, like there was some vibrancy and something different about it. Atomic Heart is similar to like how we used to complain about a lot of games in the like late stages of Call of Duty Modern Warfare era where everything was gray or brown consistently.
Yes, that's exactly my issue because the game opens in like this floating city where you see the Soviet Union in an alternate universe with pushing technology in the 60s way beyond anything we have today. And it's like a spectacle. It looks like a BioShock game. They pulled heavily from it with a city in the sky. It was honestly like a BioShock Infinite ripoff, if anything. And the game is like, okay, this is going to be really cool. This is cringy as hell, but it's going to at least look really cool. And then you realize that that was just a prologue to get you into this facility, and everything is just dreary and whatever. Like, there isn't anything so far overly interesting. There's nothing really fun to look at. The enemies are pretty repetitive, that kind of stuff. So that's my real issue with this one is just as I load into it, I can only play an hour to maybe 2 at a time because I get not bored of the gameplay, just bored that I'm seeing the same room over and over and the same thing in here. It's nice to be able to like upgrade weapons and unlock new powers like you would in a BioShock game. But again, they're nothing to write home about or anything like that. So with the cringy writing and the boring scenes, I would say it's a tough recommend for purchase. I think the best way to describe this game is it's the perfect Game Pass game. It's something you would never pay money for, but to just have it as something you're playing on the side of your main game, just to kind of shoot some stuff and not take too seriously, it is actually like a decent game.
Yeah. It's like I was excited to try it, and then I was like, no, I've got too many games to play in too little time. It's way at the bottom. If I end up unemployed or something like that, maybe I'll get to it, but not right now with the time schedule I have.
Yeah.
Chris, what about or Adam? Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I was going to say that's it. That's it for me. That's all I've done.
Adam, what have you been up to?
Apart from raising nearly $6,000 for charity over last weekend,
well done, sir.
Which I'm an idiot for not realizing that because we didn't do a show last week that I didn't even advertise it here. Now I did. Now you're gonna be happy. I made sure I plugged it on the marathon during our last run.
Done.
So you got that.
Well done.
I didn't forget this year.
Well done.
I was gonna on last show. I was gonna talk about Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, but we're gonna save that for our side quest, so I'll talk about that later.
Every Friday, 5 p.m.
It's really good, but if you want to hear why it's so good, you can look forward to the side quest for that. What I do want to talk about is I did play the Stellar Blade demo yesterday, so I did get the chance to take a look into that. Since we are on the topic of sexy games, I might as well talk about tits and ass for basically the hour that I played it for, because that's pretty much what Stellar Blade kind of was advertised was for most people when they saw it, because we just see, buxom Asian lady with, skin tight outfit. And you're like, well, I can't imagine what this game's going to be for.
Now, Adam, my question, is this game for me?
Do you care at all about Soulsy games or with it's because it's Souls light? I would say it's not stupid hard, but it's also not. Oh wait, you were a big Elden Ring guy.
I was gonna say, for the record, I think I'm the only one here who's played most of Elden Ring.
Well, I mean, yeah, the game wasn't so boring. I probably could have gotten further.
I could have gotten farther if it wasn't for the stupid giants in Frostworld.
Once again, I feel like
ice levels suck.
I feel like Stellar Blade is like a mixture of like Nier Automata and Dark Souls with a little bit of like Bayonetta sort of thrown there in terms of like the sex appeal. But like I played it for the hour that it was. It's a really short demo. You can finish that real quick if you just power through it. I find that, and I play it on story mode difficulty. That's how I know that it's hard. I still struggle with story mode. I didn't die, but I was fucking close quite a few times. And it's okay. Like, I don't know if I'm far enough getting like a better enough idea to kind of tell if it's something that I'll play consistently. It didn't make me go, oh, I need to play this ASAP. It's more of, yeah, this will be interesting for like $30-$40, but I don't think I'm far enough to go like near day one on. Now, if you're into these types of games, yeah, I can see why you'll like it. You'll definitely get your money's worth. For me, because I'm not too big into these types of games, like it would have had to do something real big to sell it. And unfortunately, apart from like it's pretty cool to look at, like it's a nice like an interesting atmosphere, and the enemy designs are fucking incredible. That was the one thing about the trailers that did grab me, and even initially was the enemy designs were really good. And even just the basic enemies that they throw at you so far, it almost gives me a little bit of Returnal vibes too, with how its enemies kind of play off. Not in the gameplay, but just in how its enemies are. Although I will say the HP HUD immediately makes me think of Returnal, so there is that. But like the little bit that I played of it, I enjoyed it. I wasn't gonna sit there and say like, oh, this is amazing, but it was fine. I would say do not play it in English, because the voice acting is some of the most atrocious voice acting I think I've ever come across in a video game, and that's saying a lot. You could have given me $100 and I could have played all of the characters. Yes, all of the characters. That includes female characters, and I would have done a better job than all of them, because they are some of the most unenthusiastic voice acting I've ever heard in my life. Like,
well, I don't want to hear Adam's audition for this.
Yeah, I do too.
maybe we'll do that as a something down the road. Who knows? But it's bad. So I turned on. I'm assuming its native language is going to be Korean because it's based out in Korea, and it's a lot better because at least there feels like there's some amount of expressiveness into it. I should have tested it and tried other languages because they had a few other ones, but I didn't even think to go with that. I wonder what French or like Spanish would sound like. It might be still passable. But in English, it's bad. It's so bad. They're all monotone. It's so rough to listen to. And I'm saying that as like somebody who doesn't care much for the Final Fantasy 16 voice acting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
See, I knew Kaylan would understand.
We agree.
Like, as a game, perfectly fine. I think that the gameplay is pretty fun. The boss battles are really good. It does have a bit of that Returnal flair to it, where you slowly start to learn everybody's tell, and so you know when to dodge or when to parry, or when's the best time to strike. You start to learn as you go. I do like that, similar to how Souls games will have like a campfire. They have to, like you can see on screen right now if you're watching, there is the rest point. They do space them out, and I think is a fair range where I don't feel like it's so absurdly difficult to get to the next bonfire. It's not nearly as ridiculous this time. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a fair checkpoint. I can deal with that. You know, I came real close to dying several times leading up to the couple of rest points they give, but it was enough that I'm like, okay, we're good. And that was perfectly serviceable. But again, the big point of this for the time being is going to be the visual aspect, and I think that nails it in spades. I love how it looks graphically. It ran really, really well. I didn't feel like there was any bad frame rate hits or anything. Nothing looked really bad texture-wise. It's a beautiful game. It's a matter of, will the story that it tells actually keep you invested, and will the gameplay stay consistent enough that it keeps you in there? I'm not convinced of it yet, but I think if this is the type of game for you, if you're into these third-person action, Souls-y sort of games, this is definitely something to take a look at. Otherwise, I would say, wait to see how reviews come out with it. Maybe wait till it drops like 30-40% maybe, and then take a crack at it. Who knows? It'll probably just end up on PlayStation Plus in a year, and then we can all play it then. But it's not bad. Like, this is the kind of game that PlayStation needs as an exclusive because it kind of sets a different tone, because I know a lot of people are still mad that Bloodborne hasn't gotten remade for like the 19th time that people have complained about it in the last like couple of years. But
I mean, that's a granted complaint, because like Last of Us Part 2 got remade like a year after it came out.
Yeah, but that would also get into the conversation where I think we need to stop remaking everything for a little while. But hey, that's a whole other.
I'm just
that's
saying,
a whole other podcast.
I know it's a whole other podcast, but they've got some credibility to that complaint.
Well, if they'd stop buying the remakes, I guess. I don't know.
Anyways.
But
cool.
yeah, I'd say it's pretty solid. I'd say it's something to keep your eye on. If you are into these games, I'd say put both eyes on it. But if you're like in the like range, if you're on the fence on it, yeah, keep an eye on it. But I wouldn't like dive headfirst into it yet.
Yeah, it's gonna. I'm like, it doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but I mean, if it gets high enough reviews and stuff, and it like avoids the pitfalls I'm not on board with.
Like, if I was guessing, I'd say it's going to be somewhere between the 78 to 85 range is kind of where I'm roughly guessing.
Okay.
That's kind of like my just like gut instinct. It'll probably be something. If you really had to nail me on a number, I'd say it's probably going to finish around an 81. Like, that's kind of roughly where I'm thinking, because I think it'll please enough people. I just don't think from what I saw, like, the story is going to carry, which is going to be a big thing for some people.
Fair enough. Yeah, it seems like we've all kind of taken a break from Helldivers. I've taken my leave for a bit.
That's not true. I tried the big new laser cannon. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah. What's it called? It's
a quasar cannon.
Yeah.
They're also apparently flying mechs now, and I need to go back in and see what that looks like. But the quasar cannon, for those who don't know or haven't really got the chance to use it, you know how dropships are really freaking annoying when you play against automatons? Yeah, they one-shot them.
Nice.
It's more like, is the weapon great? But is it really cool just watching like dropship after dropship fall to the ground? You bet your ass it does.
Yeah, I've been playing it, but I'm also kind of like, I was away, so I was on the Portal, and I didn't want to play Helldivers on the Portal, so I booted up Baldur's Gate 3, and
now that you're free?
Sorry?
Now that you're free?
Oh, I'm free now. I got a new prison I'm stuck in. I don't know, like, I'm having mixed feelings about Baldur's Gate.
Ooh.
I am interested in it, I am hooked on it, but I don't love it. I think there's an issue with it. Like, I think there's some complaints to be had. Like, I think the game, and this is just a gripe for me, like, I don't, like, once again, I'm the dad of the group, I don't have a lot of time for gaming. There's a lot of convolutedness to Baldur's Gate in that, like, they're like, hey, we want you to do this. Well, what do you want us to do? I'm not going to tell you. Okay, well, then how am I don't know, just go figure it out. And I'm like, I don't have time for this Baldur's Gate. Like, tell me what you need to do. Give me a general idea of where I need to go, what I need to do. Like, I went to this one area. Slight spoilers for Act 2, nothing content-wise, but I get to this area, and it's a Shadow Realm area, like dark, haunted, whatever. And my characters are taking damage just from existing in this world. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, why am I taking damage? And I literally had to go onto Reddit and be like, hey, how do I deal with this? And the solution was, I had to be in light. I had to be in a torch. And I'm like, how was I supposed to know that, right? Like, how am I supposed to know that the torch works? Like, the mechanics are really cool, but they're very finicky or picky or convoluted or obtuse. And I'm like, I don't really enjoy that. Like, I'm not looking to be handheld completely, but I'm looking for a little bit more than just, we built a sandbox, go have fun. Like, I'm not having fun in that side. Like, I'm curious to see where the story's going. I'm liking, where this plot is. I like kind of doing the role-playing aspect of it, but it's a little obtuse at times, and I think that's to its detriment. And yeah, like, so I'm not entirely sure what I should be doing, why I'm doing things. I'm kind of just going from checkbox to checkbox. And it's also got some situations where, like, sometimes it's telling me that, like, something's broken, right? So I had to, at one point, free some gnomes. I freed them, killed the captive, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. You guys are free. Go back to the person that sent me. And they're like, we're free. And I'm like, I know. Go back to where you came from. And they're like, we're free. I'm like, okay, we're done here. So then I go and talk to the person that gave me the quest. I'm like, hey, great news. Your friend is free. And they're like, okay, go free my friends. And I'm like, they are free. Like, so the game didn't recognize that, like, I had done something. So I'm just like, forget it. I went off and I did a bunch of other side quests, came back like probably 3-4 hours later, and suddenly someone popped up and that wasn't there before. And I'm like, oh hey, like you're free. He's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go see my friend. And it's just like the game, it just is so hands off that you can't tell what's a glitch and what is just it's meant to be doing. Like you're supposed to be doing. Like, is it you or is it the game? And it's hard to tell because it is so not holding your hand at all. So, and the combat, I'm not like the combat's fine. It's a turn-based RPG. It's fine. So like I'm gonna keep playing it. I'm interested to see where this goes, but I'm not gonna be heralding it as like the greatest game of all time. Like I don't even think so far. Like I said, I'm starting Act 2. I'm about 30 hours into this game. I don't know if this is my game of the year for 2023. Like I still think Mario Wonder is still better than Baldur's Gate 3 so far. Something could happen that could absolutely change it. But like I said, 30 hours in, start of Act 2. It's good. It does some really cool things, but this is not a herald of one of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. Also, totally don't recommend playing it with 2 people. I think this game works better as a single player game. So,
see, on the opposite, I don't think I have any interest in playing that game alone because it's not as fun. I need somebody to riff on with it. Maybe,
but like I'm not enjoying like the party management. I hate doing that. Like I hate that you gotta manage party and inventory. It's just there's a lot of things that are not detrimental to the game. I think it's just part of that genre, and maybe the genre is not for me, but it is a cool game.
And it's kind of the thing that I knew going in when I went to try it, where I'm like, I already know that D&D is not a big thing that sticks with me. I haven't really ever gotten into the whole thing. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm already down a point because I'm already not nearly as invested in the world. And then as soon as I started playing, I'm like, well, this is all right, but also like the top-down gameplay has never really been one that I've been interested in. And then also the fact that like there's a lot of luck involved, which the only game that seems to click very well with me on that is XCOM, and I still have never fully beaten an XCOM game because eventually you just start to get tired out of having to replay the same missions and checkpoints over and over again, trying to accomplish something. So it just gets exhausting. And in a similar boat, like the reason that a lot of JRPGs stick with me, even though they start slow, is because at least there's something story-wise to cling on to, or something in the world that at least makes me cling. Like Persona, it's always been the immediate like school life mixed with, you know, where's this weird mystery going on? Whereas with Baldur's Gate, like I walked in and be like, okay, I'm a person. Here's a place. What am I doing? Like, I'm just walking. Like, and then people say, well, that's the adventure. I'm like, yeah, but I also want a reason to be walking to get me at least going. I'm sure people will say, well, yeah, but you got kidnapped and stuff, and now you're just crashed. I'm like, yeah, and there's nothing for me to do now.
Yeah.
It's like, no matter what, like most games where it keeps my attention, it's because at least there's something for me. I'm sure as if I got further
like
into the game, there'd eventually be that dangling
breadcrumb trail to follow, right? Like where it's like,
yeah,
hey,
like,
you can go
I'm
off
sure
the
if
path,
I get far enough, like that point would come. But
you think so?
The first few hours of a game should not be that emptiness. You kind of got to give me some meat to start like tasting and getting some sort of flavor profile before you start feeding me the bland stuff for a moment.
Yeah, I'm spending a lot of time on Reddit and like, how do I do this? What do I do next? How do I handle this? And maybe that's on me, but it's also a sign that like the game doesn't explain what I'm supposed to be doing or why I'm supposed to care. So, yeah.
I mean, I've got friends that have told me too of similar stories of like, yeah, like the game kind of just expects you to experiment with stuff and try to see what works. To which I go, that's cool and all, except when you've reloaded the same checkpoint 7 times because you can't figure out what the hell you're supposed to do. It's like what was that? The A Little to the Left, Chris, that game? The puzzle game? Eventually, if you hit me with enough puzzles that I have to start Googling the answers to, I start not enjoying it because I don't like feeling like a dumbass all the time. I know I am a dumbass, but stop reminding me. That's my job.
Organization, bro. Get good at organization.
As soon as I'm done this
Unpacking
game,
was perfect for that because it has that one level where you're like, where the fuck do I put this thing? I don't even know what this is. And then you realize it's a fridge magnet. And you'll be like, how the fuck was I supposed to know that? But at least the rest of the time, you're like, yeah, I know where the toothbrush goes. I know where the hairbrush goes. I know where the soap goes. And eventually you're like, cool. And then there's a fridge magnet that doesn't look like a fridge magnet. Baldur's Gate, it's like, hey, here's a bunch of fridge magnets, but we're not going to tell you they're fridge magnets. Thanks,
or where
game.
the fridge is.
Or where the fridge is. See, guys, what you're missing here is developers do this all the time. They make the game this convoluted to sell the strategy guide. You guys just didn't buy the strategy.
Yeah, Brady Games isn't making a Baldur's Gate 3 guide anymore there, Chris.
It'd be like this big. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be massive.
Yeah.
An encyclopedia.
Yeah, after I finish this game, I'm going to Rise of the Ronin, where it's just, hey, here's checkboxes. Just go do these. So, like, antithesis of Baldur's Gate.
Excited for that game.
Yeah, both me and Chris are basically just eyeing, well, you are going to have to probably wait a little bit longer at the rate you're playing Remake right now, but I'm just basically eyeing late April when Aiden Chronicle comes out.
Yeah, I got it.
Because that's going on Game Pass, and I'm just sitting there being like, yeah, I'll just keep playing a bunch of small games, and we'll get to that point.
Yeah, Atomic Heart, man. Go give it a try.
I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you did the intro. The intro was really great.
Yeah, it was great. And then what was that weird like vending machine that tries to kill you? Like that grabs you with like a long ass tongue?
Nora.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like finally something cool to happen. And then an hour later, I'm like, and that was it. All the cool things are gone.
So while I was perusing Reddit and figuring out stuff about Baldur's Gate, I find out you could romance the characters. One of the which is a bear. And I was like, huh. And that got me thinking about romancing in general in video games, both in terms of like romancing characters and then the more explicit parts of romancing characters in video games. And I want to get your thoughts on this. I feel like I know where Adam sits on this, but I thought we could have a conversation about like romance and sex scenes in games. Are we for them? Are we against them? How do you feel? I'm gonna place my bet, Adam. I'm guessing you're very pro game, like pro romance games.
Adam's face right now. He's playing a sex scene in a game right now in his head. Like,
can you guess which one?
I know. No, there's so many in your mind. I assume right now. I don't even.
Good
know
because
one.
I don't know either because they keep swapping.
So Adam is pro. Chris, where do you fall? Where do you fall in this conversation?
So for me, I think this probably just goes back to also my taste in movies and stuff like that. Because for me, a love interest and all of that in a story, it needs to kind of make sense to characters and stuff like that. Or it needs to be just that typical blockbuster like adventure story where, you know, like Uncharted. I feel like Uncharted, while there was no sex scenes or anything like that, obviously there was a lot of like, you know, love triangle kind of thing with Chloe and I can't even remember the main girl's name right now. Elena.
How
like in the
you?
second game where
Elena.
it seems like we're like, oh, you know, Nate was with her and now he's kind of with her.
Will they, won't they?
Will they, won't they? Like, I like that because it's like
we were on a break.
Yeah, we were on a break. I like the like adventure story and then there's like the love interest and in there was clearly like it was hinted at that Nate was probably sleeping with somebody, but it was always like the classy thing where it'd be like Nate goes to his room and they're in this weird, you know, kind of not even really a motel in some foreign country and he's trying to get some sleep because they've been shot at all day. Then there's a knock at the door and it's the girl and they talk for a second and all of a sudden she closes the door and then it's the next morning. Like it's mostly in your imagination. I like that. If I had to like pick something that I prefer when it comes to the love stories, I like the like adventure story with the love interest and it's like a male fantasy. Obviously it's like you don't have a job, you're not tied down at home, you're going on adventures and this hot girl wants to sleep with you because you're so cool and so adventurous and like it's not overly serious or anything. Like I know that's what it is and I'm sure lots of people agree with that. When it comes to the actual sex scenes in games, it would really have to make sense to me. Like I know it's in like Mass Effect. The Witcher like was so hardcore with that in certain scenes. I've played all 3 Witcher games. I haven't finished the 3rd one, but I even played Witcher 1 and 2. Witcher 1 is like an extreme PC game. The sex scene wasn't a sex scene. When you slept with someone, you got their trading card and they were naked on it. It was
original Gwent.
It was the original Gwent. but you had to sleep with everyone to get there, and there was a lot of people you could sleep with in the first game. Holy crap, there was like 24 cards you could collect. It was insane. And I started doing that, but it was because of the card aspect. Like, I just wanted to get the whole set because I love trading cards so much.
So wait, you're having sex with
like
24 people and collecting a card for it?
Yes.
What you're really collecting is VDs. Like you're
I was,
like,
you took the joke from me, so you know what? I won't even finish it now.
No,
that's what she said.
Potions. He can't get sick. It just doesn't work. That's what the potions are for, guys. Come on.
I'm not saying that he was collecting.
You got 23. You got 23 cards, and you're like, which one am I missing? It's like the 70-year-old, 400-pound bear, and you're just like, too far in to let this go.
Oh yeah, I would not let one card. If it was only one left, I'll do whatever it takes. As Geralt, I will not.
As someone who played Dragon Age Inquisition, I want the weirdest possible one because the Iron Bull sex scene is the fucking funniest thing ever.
God.
See,
but yeah,
I'm with you. Like I'm with you in terms of like, hey, I have no problem with relationships and romance in games where it's like, hey, like, will they, won't they, or kind of like the relationship aspect of it. Like, I don't mind when characters have that dynamic because like we want games to feel realistic and relationships are a part of that, whether they're early in relationships or long-term things. Those are cool. I have no problem with those, but I agree with you when it comes to the sex scenes. Like, I don't want to sound like a prude. I have nothing against like the sex like on TV or movies or something, but like it just feels weird with video games because like for me it's never done well, and then it always gives me like the impression of like 10-year-old kids just smashing Barbies together and just be like,
no, like, that was just Road to, or what was that fucking Ride to Hell Retribution, I think, where it was literally looking like two dolls because they were still clothed the entire thing too.
Yeah,
it's really fucking weird.
It never comes across well. Like it's always like it. Like I said, it feels like just like some like 13-year-old kid who's just like discovering sex and just like it just, I get that, like it seems kind of, I don't know, for me it just doesn't do anything. I don't find it hot. I don't find it adds anything to the game. Like for me it's just awkward. At best it's awkward, right? And so I don't really appreciate when it's like in your face. I have no problems with like implication and implied, like, hey, like she walks in the room and closes the door. I know what happens, and frankly, it's better if I use my imagination as to what happens instead of seeing fish-eyed like gaming like from like 2006 like bumping uglies. Like, no, it's not good, and it doesn't hold up well. So like, why do we do it in the first place? That's where I stand. Now we turn to Adam.
Yeah, Adam. There we go.
So, I'll flat out say, I would not have a problem if it was full on. Like, if it was full-on pornographic content. The problem is I don't trust any company to do that effectively. Because the problem is A, it wouldn't look very good. Because good luck trying to get a bunch of animators to actually take it seriously without giggling. And at the same time, also, like, it's not the most comfortable thing to do, I imagine. Like, in the same way that, like, I can't imagine what it's like being somebody who crafts a horror game and is spending hours upon dismemberment stuff. Like, that stuff just creeps me out, too. But at the same time, like, I can't imagine, like, man, like, real talk, like, with Japanese pornographic material, I cannot imagine what it's like for those people animating it. Because some of that stuff is real fucking sketch. So, like, I can't even imagine that. So, in the same plane, like, I can't imagine a bunch of guys animating, like, extensive sex scenes with full-on, like, activity and full-on, like, exposed genitalia and shit. Whereas more often than not, you're usually getting, naked models, but you're not seeing like any appendages. You're just seeing like ass and the implication that somebody's getting railed. That's about the most you're getting. I honestly don't have an issue with if they went all the way. I wouldn't care, but it would have to be done right. Like there are two main things that it would have to involve. One, it would have to make sense, as you guys said. Like there has to be like a legit reason for it. It can't just be completely random. Or it has to be something completely out of the way. Like how with Cyberpunk, you can literally just go up to like a couple of people on the street and just be like, here, money, let's fuck, done. And it's like that. But like my honest opinion with any scene like that, and this even includes ones that aren't even like fully animated, like even like what Mass Effect does, for example, whenever you romance a partner. I don't even think like that should be a thing that happens very easily. Like the problem is a lot of these scenes, like take for example what Last of Us Part 2 had. Like with Abby, I believe it was. Where it's
they both
like
end up having sex, I think. Not with each other, but
yeah. But like I'm assuming, because I obviously
like
didn't play the game because I don't care for that series, but I imagine it's something that you have to watch. Like you have to come across it in the story, right?
yes, yeah, both
Yeah,
of them.
and that's my problem.
implication.
I personally, I have no problem with these scenes, but I don't like the fact that you're forced to have to watch them. Because not everybody wants to see that. And again, it's not even the prudish part of me. It's like, again, like I don't think some people, especially when we're talking about people that have been abused, that I don't think they want to see scenes that might implicate something like that. So I think that there's an issue in that front. To me, again, like the stuff that happens in a BioWare game, which is one of the main ones that I was always accustomed to, I ain't got no problem with that shit. I'm in for that. I'm in for as much of that as you can stomach, but I would rather it be a case where you have to go out of your way
for it.
And there also should be like an option at the start of a game. You know how like there's always like heads up about, oh, if you want to tone down the violence, or hey, there's flashing lights and stuff. Like if you can turn these settings off, that should also exist in these games, that, hey, these scenes do exist. Do you want to just straight turn these off so it skips? Or like offer like an alternative scene kind of deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it for spiders. We have a setting there where you can turn off spiders.
Yeah. And another good thing, they could even have an extra install, because PC does this all the time. You could have a 40 gig high res genital pack or something you can install to make sure you get the proper graphics.
We call it the perfect
Or you can
pack.
do what you're supposed to do, which you replace everything with Thomas the Tank Engine and we're good.
No, that makes it so much more scary.
Because like I've played games with mods where it does go a little bit further, and it's fine. Like it's how I am, you know, I don't mind it. But at the same time, like I went out of my way to get content like that. Whereas in a game like, again, Dragon Age or Mass Effect or game, like there's still like some people say, well, you gotta, you know, like romance the partner enough. I'm like, yeah, but you can stumble into things sometimes too. But like straight up, like if it's like a story cutscene that you have to see, that to me goes no. Like it can be in there, but the option should have happened at the start of the game to allow people to skip that, because it's not something everybody wants to play a part of. In the same way that, again, we have stuff for like a lot of games will have stuff for violence, a lot of stuff for language, a lot of stuff for drugs, like, or even like, again, flashing lights for people that can get seizures off of that. I feel like the option for sexual content should also exist. Because I think, too, as someone who plays a lot of Japanese games, they go a little too far sometimes, and you can't turn it off. So, like, you have to just deal with it. And I'm desensitized to it, but not everybody is. I'm also 36. There's going to be a lot of people that are a lot younger that are not desensitized to that shit. So, and depending on your education level, you probably shouldn't be getting desensitized to that, because bad shit's going to happen. Whereas with me, I'm fucking in control of this. Not everybody is, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is one of the things, like when you brought up things like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, it's good that like it allows you that you kind of have to go looking for it. But I also find that like those also do romance and relationships probably the worst, because it's always like, hey, here
be
are
nice
like,
to them and they'll eventually want to fuck you kind of deal.
Exactly. Like, and it's very clear, like this is the route to take if you want to like get in their pants, and it never feels like genuine,
it's at the point with these games that I'm like, guys, Saints Row did it perfectly in Saints Row 4. You literally walk up to one of the characters, Kinsey, who at no point in the series have you ever like had any sort of tension with. And it's just the character walks up, hey, Kinsey, wanna fuck? Let's go. Punches him, and they jump on each other. Done. Cutscene. Because Saints Row made fun of the fact that so many games make you work for it. This time, as soon as you get her, first thing you can do is try. And it's just done. And they make fun of that shit. Because, again, it gets so over the top. I don't have a problem with even these kind of options, but stop making it seem like, oh, they're so into each other. It's like, guys, we've said a couple of nice things to each other over the course of this game, and I don't even put you in my party sometimes. We aren't really that much of a thing together. Just straight up say, yeah, we're trying to save the world. It's really fucking stressful. Instead of just rubbing one out all the time, why don't we just couple together and just kind of get some frustration out, you know? Like,
Yeah,
just
that'd be
fucking
more-
like don't lie to us anymore. They're not in love. Like Commander Shepard does not have time for that relationship. He is busy trying to save the fucking galaxy. He ain't got time to spend, 50 hours with Liara sitting there watching, fucking really riveting documentaries and shit before they start really getting into each other. They weren't sharing dinners all the time. They literally were shooting aliens and then just one day realized, you know what? I like the cut of your jib. Let's fuck. And that's really what it was. Instead of what they try to claim it being this over-the-top love story. Now, I don't have a problem with it, but I also don't look at it and be like, oh, it's a great love story they told. I just go, I really like Liara, so we banged. That was my logic.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like in Stardew Valley, you have to take a gift every single day to somebody.
You gotta
for, like,
fucking work for it.
You gotta work for it. And even then, they then come to you with problems, and you gotta like solve some sort of side quest for their heart to go up even more. Like you have to prove your worth. That's real life.
That's real love right there. It's
like
here's some
Witcher
gifts
does a
and some
similar
hope.
thing where you still do have to put some work in, and but a lot of it's nice trees. But the story, at least outside of like your conversations with the conversation wheel, shows that there's a developing relationship between Geralt and Yennefer, or Geralt and Triss. Whereas, like, I'll be honest, as a guy who really likes Mass Effect, like Shepard and Liara, Shepard and Tali, like they're mostly just chill with each other, and then eventually you just finally get the option where it's like, all right, I've been nice enough to you, now take your clothes off, let's go. And it's kind of problematic.
I think one of the things that like Witcher does well with the third one, I've not played the other ones, and so I can't speak to all of them, but like Witcher 3, if I remember correctly, like there's like not necessarily consequences, but there could be repercussions of the romance trees that you kind of pursue, and like I think that's a very genuine and like reflective kind of situation of like these people all know each other, and like if you sleep with one of them, like the other one may kind of get pissed about it. So like I think that they do a good job there. It's just oftentimes I find that these aren't done well, and I feel like it kind of like cheapens the medium, right, a little bit in terms of not doing it well. And I think Hollywood kind of went through this in like the 80s and 90s where like every movie had a sex scene, and like you don't see them that much anymore in movies, right? Like if I'm thinking about it, or maybe it's just the movies I'm watching.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
I definitely agree with you with Witcher 3. Like with Triss and Yennefer specifically, at least, because it plays into the story. And if you haven't played 2 or 1, like Triss is with Geralt from the first game, and Yennefer isn't there until the third game because of story reasons. I won't say anything just in case anything for spoilers. But yeah, basically like the actual character development with Triss and Geralt happens over a series of games, and obviously it gets romantic, and it can at different points depending on choices you make and everything.
gotta get that card.
It's the first game it was just a card, but it made sense with that character because it is like built into the story. Even the books, like those characters were in the books and like each other and all that. Yennefer, same thing, and it's a love triangle. Totally makes sense. Is it necessary to have the actual sex scenes that you earn in game when you get there? I don't know, maybe not. It feels kind of Game of Thronesy, where it's kind of just there for probably just being there. But at least they did it well. Like at least the characters have a reason, and it is very realistic. And like you said, there is consequences. If you sleep with one, it really does affect the dialogue for the rest of the game with another person. Unlike all in the first Witcher game, where one of the cards you earn is just a forest nymph. You just have to talk to her and not fuck it up, and then you earn that card. Because I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's a forest nymph, but it's just there for being there. It's not necessary. It's just to collect these cards because horny teenagers. Like, I guess I don't know. So it's like Witcher does it well, but also has these other side people you can sleep with just for the sake to say you did.
Yeah, I think like the honest question to ask is what is a point to actually justify having a scene in a game like that? And I'm talking like straight up like actually showing like banging. I was trying to find like a nicer word, but it was like, nah, fuck it, we're not hiding. I don't know if that exists because I don't know what the context for a game would be that has to be a thing. Because generally speaking, like does like a character having sex and like is there ever a movie where the sex scene like truly defines the story?
Pornos mostly.
Like does the point of them sleeping in the car in Titanic really mean anything, or is it just is it just a really funny moment to point and laugh at because it's so fucking random?
Yeah. Who brings a car on a ship, you know?
I mean, if you got that money, right?
Oh,
there's only, like, what's he gonna do? Take a cab? There's only like 7 cars in the world. Like, if you don't bring it with you, you're screwed.
Because yeah, like
Uber.
I think there's a different conversation to be had about things like, say for example, Chris, like in Witcher 2, I believe, where Geralt and Triss are like just hanging out at like a hot spring or something together and like they're swimming around. I think that's one thing, right? But if we're talking like a full-on sex scene, that's completely different. I don't think there's an issue with sexual content at all in terms of like, oh, someone showering, or hey, someone gets caught while they're undressing, or like the classic scenes that like every anime these days seems to have. Like, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with those as long as there's a point to it, or if it's just acted like it's a normal thing. Because again, like I've made this topic in like, I used to write articles on this a long time ago before I even started podcasts, where I said anybody who has a problem with a shower scene in a video game or an anime or a movie, what's wrong with you? Like, what's unusual about that? The only difference is, to me, is the camera angles is where it really matters. If it's literally deadpan centered on their ass, that's a little different. But if it's meant to play it like, like it's more like shoulder up, or, even if you're getting like bare chest, right? I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong as long as it's not completely obvious that you're just zoning in there. If it's like a full body shot and you're just playing it to be like a normal thing that's happening, I don't think there's a problem there. I think if your game is making it really obvious that you're only there for the sex, because again, there's a lot of anime, for example, because I'm a big anime guy, where it's very obvious that the show is being sold by its sex and nothing else. Like, there's no story, there's no characters, there's nothing interesting about it. It's just pornographic, basically, without being pornographic. And the same would go with games. Like, if there's a shower scene in a game, but the whole story is really riveting, like if it's Last of Us level storytelling and there just happens to be a shower scene in it, no foul. I don't think it matters. But if it's like really dry, like Atomic Heart, where there's just not that much interesting about it, and then all of a sudden, like, really, what do most people remember at Atomic Heart? The 2 fucking robot busty twins. Is that a good thing? No, it's not. That's not what you should be remembered by. Do people remember Final Fantasy VII Remake just because of Tifa's tits? No, it's a part of it, but it's not the only reason. There's a whole lot more with it, and I think that's the difference too. I think any sort of sexual content, whether it's just, like revealing clothing, straight up nudity, or even sex scenes, I don't think there's an issue with any of them, but the game cannot be the one memorable thing about it is that. I think if the game sells itself and then it happens to have that content in it, I think that's fine. Because otherwise, we're just talking about a game that you're putting a price tag on something that you could just Google search, right?
Exactly. Kind of like Resident Evil Village. I mean, name me any other character any other villain in Resident Evil Village besides that one main character. Now here's a trick question. I didn't name the villain I was telling you about, and you know exactly which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Step on me.
It's clearly Thomas the Tank Engine after you mod it.
Yeah, exactly. Sexiest of all villains.
But yeah, well, a great example that I pull, like take a look at Bayonetta, for example. That game is chock full of sexual content. But do people actually really like note that as like the selling feature? No. The combat is incredible. The visuals are fantastic. The story is batshit fucking crazy. Like most people don't go and talk about Bayonetta being like, oh yeah, and this chick, like her clothes are actually her hair, and if you use the superpower, she goes completely naked. It's no, guys, like check out this fucking fight scene where I'm fighting on this floating thing, and there's a clock tower that I'm fighting on, and it's like Kingdom Hearts level crazy combat shit. Like that's what people remember about those games. The sex appeal just happens to be a part of it, whereas in some games, that's like the one thing people will remember. And that was the worry that I had with Stellar Blade even initially. Now playing the demo, I'm like, okay, they overdid the sex appeal on the main character, but also combat's okay, and the visuals are pretty cool too. So maybe there is something there. Time will tell. But that's like a great example of a game coming out soon that may be decided based on how, it sells. Because that game clearly, in the way that its characters are designed, are meant to make you look. So the question is that all it has going for it? And if that is the answer, then that's the wrong way to do sexual content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not the wrong way of doing content. This way. And we do this every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you get your podcasts, searching for Pixel Play Podcast, or on YouTube for, looking for Pixel Play Podcast. If you like that and you want to see more, be part of the show, send us questions. You can find all of our contact at linktr.ee/pixelplaypodcast. Thank you, Chris, for pointing it out. With that, we thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.